troublemaker. I've been a late night player. I've been broke as a joke. I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker. Taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stings. We make the whole room drop and everybody sang. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school. We think we're so cool. We take it back to the past. We gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my yay.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this October 13th. It is the month of October, almost got a Friday the 13th, not quite.
It was a little chilly this morning.
Well, actually, it was a little bit warmer than it had been. We got temperatures down just above freezing this past week.
Huh?
So we had a couple near frosts.
Camera 3?
I think we got some vegetables in my garden continuing to grow, but we are close to being done with that. But yeah, it was a little bit colder this week, but today was a little bit warmer. We still got some warm temperatures in and around, but we are live, and we were here until 7 o'clock. We were off last week, and we are back ready to talk some more sports. So the number 203-792-4101 is the number if you want to give a call and see what we're up to, or just talk about whatever random thing you might want to talk about. We haven't got many calls lately, Bob. I don't know. We were away for so long.
We were off for,
and people forgot about us. I don't know. I mean, I get a couple likes on Facebook here and there, so I know some people are paying attention and they're back tuned in, but I don't know. Maybe we lost some people. We'll see. Or maybe everybody's just completely caught up with this election
you got to figure
nonsense.
this past week we had, from Friday until yesterday, the kids were off from school.
Yeah, when did Columbus Day weekend turn into a 5-day weekend?
Well, we had teachers development on Friday, Columbus Day, then we have teacher development again, and then we had Jewish holiday.
They really, I don't know.
We never had that much time off.
I never remember that happening on Columbus
The only thing
Day.
I had off when we had Fair Day and we had Columbus Day off. That was it,
That was a pretty good deal for the kids this past week. All right, well, there's our man Bob Broad Jr. Let's officially say hello. Hello.
Well.
Bob's show Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. I was trying to load up your shows. I kind of dropped the ball on that since we were here last, but I was watching as I was trying to load. I'll get it loaded probably tonight. The Sonny Carroll Orchestra.
Yeah. Yes.
From earlier in the summer, the Bethel concerts. That was a nice little musical happening down there. It sounded very good in the background as I was doing some notes today. It took too long to load, so I had to cancel. I'll reload it later and get those up. And we got some other shows I'm sure Bob has for me to put up.
Snyder reunion
I got to get that up there.
Yeah.
And other stuff. And then, of course, Mike Toohey in the control room. His show Expose Cinema, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. Mostly he's locked into this election. I know he's probably got a Halloween special coming up soon, however. And he did that kind of crazy old TV and bad movie show the other week, which was pretty good. Maybe I should steal that from him. He doesn't put his shows online, but that was a pretty good one. I've got to talk to him about getting some of his shows up online as well. But all right, so we have a joke because Jenna and Connor are here, as is the missus. And I think this joke came from Mrs. Broad.
Yes, it did.
Hers were better than the kids. I'm just gonna say it as it is, Bob. They were running some jokes by me. I don't know. Jenna's been the jokester before, but this week I wasn't quite sure. So this is the Halloween-themed joke. Are you ready?
Yes.
What do mummies like listening to on Halloween?
I don't know. What mummies like to listen to on Halloween?
Rap music, as in W-R-A-P.
Oh.
Rap music. I thought that was pretty good. I'll take it.
She's good. She's good.
All right, let's get into the show here. 203-792-4101.
Where do we want to start?
We don't really want to start with baseball because...
which part of baseball you want to start with? The
end of an
League
era.
Or the National League?
Well, we got to start with the Red Sox, or as it were now, the Dead Sox.
Yeah.
Swept away by the Cleveland Indians in David Ortiz's final playoff series, final days as a professional baseball player, as he moves on into retirement. And they couldn't come up with one victory in this series at all. No. Could barely come up with any hits. 5-4 in game one, 6-0 in game two, the David Price game.
Yes.
And 4-3 at home in game three. When we were here last, Bob, I was very upset about the fact that they were not finishing the deal after that 11-game winning streak. Pretty much gave them the division. After it was, neck and neck all season long. They got a little cushion, and in that last week of the season, they took their foot off the pedal. They lost 3 straight to the Yankees and 2 out of 3 to Toronto, and gave away home field advantage. After that 11-game winning streak, they had moved into the #1 seed ahead of Texas.
Yeah.
And they fell all the way back down to 3 behind Cleveland. And we do have some stats of the week. Not really stats. Strangeman doesn't do stats anymore. He hasn't been down here, but he did sneak in and put something in my box. So not really stats, more strange thoughts of the week, I guess. Okay. But he was talking much about what I was talking about, and how the Red Sox didn't finish the deal, which allowed Cleveland not only to move ahead of them, but also, if you were paying attention, there was a rain out in the last week of the season against Detroit, and they did not have to play that game on the Monday because the Red Sox didn't win any of their games, so they didn't force them to even play that one extra game. It was not pertinent to the standings, and Major League Baseball did not make them play that game. So they got to play one less game, and they got home field advantage. And then in game one, with Porcello, the future Cy Young, probably going to be the Cy Young winner this year for the Red Sox, 22-game winner, just got stunned with 3 home runs in a row, basically, in the, third inning of that game. After the Red Sox took the 1-0 lead, they went back up 2-1 after he gave away 1 run back. And then he came back and gave up 3 home runs. They ended up losing 5-4 in that pivotal game one. And then when they need their ace the most to come in and get game 2 on the road and get the momentum back in their favor, what does David Price do? He does what he did all year. He sucked.
Yeah.
Just absolutely horrendous performance. 3 1/3 innings, 5 runs, Bob. He gives up a 3-run homer to a guy who has not hit a home run off a left-handed pitcher all year.
I know.
And he gives up the 3-run bomb. He can't even get out of the 4th inning. Just a joke. They got this guy for 7 years, $217 million or something like that, and he cannot come through when they need him. And then in game 3, which was a day late because of the rain on Sunday, they rallied. They tried to stay in this. I'll have to ask John Farrell, why, when he had a pitcher go, 4 innings giving up only 2 runs, he was actually pitching a decent game, why he pulled Clay Buchholz and went to Drew Pomerantz out of the bullpen, a guy who's been a starter all year, and he used him in that pivotal game 1 with runners on base when, the Red Sox bullpen led the league in ERA in the month of September. So why does he go to the first chance he gets with runner on base to a starter who has no experience as a reliever at all, and he brings him in the middle of the inning? He gives up the inherited run, which turned out to be the deciding 5th run in that game 1. Then he comes back to him in that game 3. He's got a bullpen full of guys who have been pitching well. Why does he have to go to this guy? He gives up the 2-run homer. They go behind 4-0 in that game. They did chip away and make it 4-3. They had runners on base in the 9th inning. I'll also have to ask John Farrell why, with the best offense in baseball, outscoring the second best offense, which was, a lot of people might not know this, was the Cleveland Indians, as a matter of fact. They outscored the second best team by 100 runs. That's how good the Red Sox offense was this year. So before the series starts, what does he do? He changes the batting lineup entirely. He brings Brock Holt up into the number 2 spot, and Brock Holt, to his credit, had a very good series. But still, maybe you get that production down at the bottom of the order, and his guy, Xander Bogaerts, who is one of the new faces of the franchise, especially with Papi leaving, he takes away his confidence after he struggled a little bit in September, but still he had a great season. He drops him down to 6th in the lineup. And he moves Mookie Betts from the cleanup spot to ahead of Ortiz. Ortiz had the greatest season in the history of great seasons. I mean, it was a great season even if he wasn't retiring, but it was certainly the greatest season of any guy who was about to retire. and he drops him from his customary third spot to fourth. And Mookie Betts, who could be the MVP, who was doing damage behind him all year, or the second half of the year when he moved him to cleanup, he moves him back to the 3, which he hadn't hit in that spot all season long. So I don't know why he made those moves. And what it came down to was, in the 9th inning of the game where they needed to keep their season alive, Travis Shaw comes up in the second spot because he was pinch hit for Brock Holt early in the game with Chris Young, and then he goes to Travis Shaw. I would have liked to see Xander Bogaerts in his customary 2-hole with the season he had, trying to extend the season. They're down 1 run, and they got 2 guys on base, and they're at home. And Travis Shaw did get a hit earlier in the game in the pitch hit situation, but that's not who you want coming up in the 2 spot there. You want your guys who got you, scored all those runs for you all year. So I don't know what John Farrell was doing. His reward is the general manager, Dombrowski, already has announced he will be back next year, so no changes to the managerial position. But it was just a really depressing way to watch David Ortiz go out. All the histrionics of him and the late game heroics and the big moments made famous he really was in the postseason situations, and he just could not come through. I think maybe, when we were here last, we were talking about the kid from Miami who passed away.
Yeah.
And we saw Ortiz, amongst other Latin players, really shaken up by that. He was very emotional. He knew that kid well. He had taken him under his wing. He was really close to him. So there was emotion involved in that. Then they had the day off after that happened and the 11-game winning streak. Then he came to New York for his final series in New York. There were ceremonies there. They didn't play well. And it looked like maybe, and then the final homestand, and there was a lot of people coming around. There was a lot of, former Red Sox players, a lot of stuff happening there with him and emotions there. And it just looked like maybe in that last week of this great season where it was all coming to an end for him, the emotions of things maybe sapped some of his energy, and he just didn't have it down the stretch in the last week of the regular season or in this 3-game series against Cleveland. The final game, he did get a sacrifice fly to cut it to 4-2. Then he drew a walk, and he was pinch run for, Bob, in that. So his final moment on the field was being taken out from second base. And some great moments, really, though, during the game. Not something you see typically from baseball players. I heard somebody on maybe it was David Justice talking on something I heard this week, talking about how you see this a lot, like in football, players and in basketball, trying to get the crowd involved. You don't see this that often from baseball, but when he drew that walk and he was on first base, he was imploring the crowd to get into it because they were down and they needed more runs. And then when he walked off the field, he still was doing that. And then the classy David Ortiz, knowing full well that they lost and that Cleveland was going to be on the field celebrating, and he goes down the tunnel, leaves, and all the fans in Boston stay, and they're chanting Papi's name for 10 minutes while Cleveland's out there celebrating, rightly so. They won. They get to advance to face Toronto. And he knows the former manager, Terry Francona, he's not going to step on his feet. He has too much respect for him. He waited for them to celebrate, clear the field, then, and we had that picture, which I think Mike has already shown, he went out to the field to tip his cap to everybody, and it was tears in his eyes for sure, as the moment was pretty heavy, as he says goodbye to Boston and Fenway Park forever. It's going to be tough next year to see the Red Sox play without their man, Big Papi, who did so much. 3 championships, Bob.
Yeah, 3.
3 championships, and we know what he did in 2004 with the big games, late inning, extra inning comebacks against the Yankees to make the whole thing possible, end the curse, reverse the curse, the whole bit. So he will go down as one of the all-time greats, right next to Ted Williams, Carl Yastrzemski, a couple others maybe thrown in there as well, but he is probably in the top 3 for sure, maybe ahead of Yaz, my childhood favorite, and Ted Williams, who was before my time, of obviously the greatest hitter of all time, and he, with the championships, stands right next to those guys for sure. So that happened there, sweep there. The other American League Series was Toronto sweeping Texas, and they did the final game in Toronto in walk-off fashion on a throwing error by Odor. Remember, this kid, the shortstop, was the one who knocked out Joey Bautista in the brawl earlier in the season, And that came because of the bat flip by Joey Bats from last year when Toronto won in Game 5 against Texas in round 1. This year they took it in a sweep as they knocked out the Rangers, who were the best team in the American League all season, but they couldn't come up with it this year as they get knocked out by Toronto 2 years in a row. And there was a sign in the stands by a Toronto fan that said, "I'd rather be punched out in April instead of knocked out in October."
Oh.
Indicating the fight that took place early in the year that Texas knocked him out, but he got the last laugh as they get the win. And there we see in the walk-off fashion as the runner on the throwing error on what should have been an inning double play. The first baseman couldn't handle the ball, and the guy on second scored, racing around third, and there we see him celebrating to win it. And they advance, and now they play Cleveland on Friday night. In the National League, Bob, it looked like the Giants, after they knocked out your Mets. Anything you got to say about that, Bob?
Well,
as I've been rambling on here.
That was a pitcher's duel up to the 9th inning.
Syndergaard, as we see him right there, just in disbelief, pitched a great game, 7 innings out of him.
And then they took him out, brought 2 relievers in, and
Familia, who's been great for you for really 2 years now, gives up the 3-run homer and stuns the Citi Field fans there, and the Giants advance as Bumgarner, the big bummer and the big shutout, punch out for he goes 9 innings. Unfortunately, Syndergaard couldn't match him 9 innings, but it was a great effort by him. And then the Giants go to the Cubs, the year of the Cubs perhaps, and they take the first 2 games. It was not lost on Red Sox fans, Bob, as David Price was getting blown up in the early game, 6 o'clock start or early 4 o'clock game or whatever that was on that Friday afternoon in Game 2. Later that night, to add insult to injury, we had to sit and watch John Lester, the former Red Sox, he's a 2-time World Series winner for the Red Sox, pitched 8-inning shutout for the Cubs against the Giants in Game 1 in another pitcher's duel right there. As that went, and the Cubs won that with a 1-0 win. They got the run in the 9th inning after Lester went 8 shutout. So, Red Sox fans certainly did not miss the irony in that. And he's also, by the way, about $40, $50, $60 million cheaper for less years than what we got David Price for. And we had Lester once. Maybe it would have been nice to just keep him. That's going to be something that really haunts the front office for a while, because I don't see David Price ever coming through for the Red Sox. The only thing I noticed, he does have a player option in 2018, so which is 2 years from now. Maybe we don't got to stick around with him for 7 years. Maybe we only get 3.
He might get traded before then.
But anyways, the Cubs take the first 2. Then the Giants looked like they were doing what the Red Sox hoped to do. They get an extra inning win, and the Cub fans were starting to sweat after Game 3. They thought, here comes the sky's going to fall. The cursed Cubs, not going to be able to get it done. And then they were down 5-2, Bob, in the 9th inning of Game 4, facing a do-or-die Game 5 back at home. An unbelievable 4-run rally.
Yeah, it was.
And they scored those 4 runs before they even registered an out.
I know.
Really just outrageous comeback there as the Giants bullpen couldn't hold it. And the Cubs win, and they advance to face the winner of the Nationals and Dodgers. That game is tonight. My question to you, Bob, with that, there was a rain out, and they still ended up with a day off between games. Did the Major League Baseball switch the schedule? Usually these schedules are put into advance, and they don't switch them at all. So my question is, did they have 2 days off scheduled?
No.
There's no way they would have had that, right?
Usually it's just a one travel
So they
day.
must have added an extra day here. I was shocked that they were not playing last night. This game, I thought sure there was not going to be a day off because of the rain out earlier in the weekend, but there was, and there's a day off, so they get to play tonight. There is a baseball game tonight, and then there'll be baseball back in the American League tomorrow, and the National League, Cubs versus whoever wins that, will take place on Saturday.
I am pulling all the way for the Cubs, even
pulling
though
for
I
the
should
Cubs.
pull for Nationals, but
I'll be pulling for the Indians and Terry Francona.
I would like to see a Cubs-Indians World Series.
That'd be a great World Series. 2 teams that have long droughts. I mean, the Cubs have not been to the World Series since the 40s, and it's been 108 years since they actually won it.
Right. It was 1908 when they was
just
the last
crazy.
time they won. And Cleveland hasn't been in there since, what, 48, so.
Right, so 2 long droughts, and maybe it's the year of Cleveland. I mean, we saw Bron and the Cavaliers get it done, so they got a little magic working there right now as well. All right, we spent a lot of time on that, so we're going to have to go quick through the NFL. There's plenty to get to, and college football maybe, and then I got to promote your fire prevention open house Saturday, October 15th. We'll mention that again at the end of the season, or at the end of the show.
Should we talk about the Patriots?
Brady is back and looking better than ever. No rust. Apparently that time off he had sunbathing nude in Italy treated him well with his lovely wife there. 400-plus yards, 3 touchdowns. And they smoked the Browns 33-13. And I get a little tired of everybody just saying, oh, it was the Browns. The Browns are terrible. The Browns are terrible. Granted, the Browns have not won yet. But if you watch the Browns games, they have been in competition, and they've lost most of these games by less than a touchdown.
Right.
And they've blown leads in the fourth quarter. So they've played well throughout this season. So it is an NFL team. And Brady not playing and not being able to practice or even communicate with anybody in the Patriots for the first 4 weeks of the season, impressive to say the least. He hooked up with his 2 new guys, Martellus Bennett for 3 touchdowns, and he hit Hogan, the new guy from Buffalo, for deep. He went over 100 yards with him on, I think, 4 receptions to him. So he connected with the new guys and the old guys. Gronkowski had a big game, Edelman, and they just played well. So now they come home, and Brady will get to play his first game at home against maybe we get to start calling the Bengals the Bungles again, Bob.
Yeah.
I mean, they are 2-3, much like the Colts. I have no idea how the Colts and the Bungles, the Dolts and the Bungles are 2-3. It seems like these teams should be 0-5 with the way they've been playing, right? But the Bengals actually are 2-0 against AFC East.
Right.
They beat the Dolphins and they beat the Jets in week 1. But last week they just got pounded.
The way the Dolphins and Jets been playing, it's no.
Right. No surprise that they won those games. But they got pounded. They were down 28-0 against the Cowboys. How about them Cowboys, Bob, at 4-1?
Oh, yeah.
Before they scored 14 meaningless points in the fourth quarter of that game. Maybe they're suffering from a playoff loss hangover, plus some injuries this year, which is affecting their rushing attack and the tackling, Bob. I mean, that looked like some college football tackling right there. Big plays by the Cowboys, led by their rookies, Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah.
They are 4-1, and they're at the Packers this weekend. And then they have the bye week, and already everybody's wondering, because Jerry Jones says Tony Romo is the guy.
Yeah.
But if they go 5-1, are you going to bring Romo back?
No.
With Prescott?
I would say not. And
But he says they're gonna.
Who are Cowboys fans that said, leave him home. Let him stay.
I've already talked to my Cowboy friends, and they want Prescott. They want to move on from Romo.
Yeah.
I don't know, but we'll see what happens. Cincinnati coming to New England. It might be the last time we get to talk about Cincinnati. If they fall to 2-4, they're really struggling this year. Not sure what's going on there. I think we got some fans out there in Cincinnati. Maybe we'll hear some news from them, perhaps. Who knows? They'll chime in maybe on the Facebook page or check things out. Well, we'd like to hear from the fans out there in Cincinnati, but if their team keeps stinking, I don't know. Another team that stunk from Cincinnati this weekend was in college. We'll get to that in a second if we got a couple minutes. UConn with a nice win against Cincinnati Bearcats. All right, so Packers 3-1 took down your Giants, Bob.
Yeah.
3 straight losses. A very ugly game. I turned it off. I saw no reason to keep watching this game. It was close, actually, because the Packers threw a couple interceptions, but they were moving the ball all over this high-priced new defense. And then Eli Manning, who is really having a good time pointing fingers at, the childish antics of Odell Beckham. People are starting to point the finger at Eli for his poor play, Bob. Not getting it done at all. They got beat 23-16. They got beat the week before 24-10. Yeah. We remember that game against the Saints. They didn't score very many points in that game. So the offense really struggling, even in games they've won. So they fall to 2-3. They get to take on the Ravens this weekend, who fired their offensive coordinator. Ravens have a pretty good defense. Offensively, they struggle. They lost 16-10 to the Redskins, who have won 3 in a row, unlike your Giants, who started 2-0 and now are 2-3. Redskins started 0-2, are now 3-2. And they started that winning streak with the win against the Giants. They faced the Eagles in a big NFC East matchup this weekend. Eagles finally lost this weekend 24-23 after coming from behind against the Lions, and then a fumble late blew it. So that's a big matchup. The Jets, Bob, McFadden, who couldn't make it down here, the Jet Maniac, he's probably in hibernation because he knows his season is over.
Oh, yeah.
1-4, Bob.
They're
and
terrible.
They face the Cardinals on Monday night, who are struggling a little bit too, but they get Palmer back at 2-3. Cardinals need that game. I expect them to beat down the Jets. Hey, at least Fitzpatrick didn't throw an interception this weekend, right?
No.
Against the Seahawks. But, you know, really just terrible performances by the Jets. 31-13. Actually, it was this weekend against the Steelers, no picks. The week before, he had interceptions against the Seahawks in that 27-17 loss. And now it gets worse, Bob. Eric Decker out, rotator cuff surgery. He's probably done for the year. We're really running out of time. I do want to mention Vikings are still 5-0. Falcons with the big win against the Broncos at 4-1. Raiders at 4-1 with the big win against the Chargers. And how about the Bills, Bob? 3 straight wins after the 2 losses, including the shutout against the Patriots in the final game before Brady returned. So, you know, that's interesting. And they are facing the 49ers at home with Colin Kaepernick, the kneeling protester, getting his starting job back this weekend. We'll see how that goes. College football, I did mention UConn. 20 unanswered points against the Cincinnati Bearcats in a 20-9 victory. They moved to 3-3, 1-2 on the season. Some big games taking place in the college football. We probably don't have enough time to get to them all, but a big loss in the AAC as Houston falls from undefeated against Navy, who moves to 4-1. Houston's 5-1 after Houston crushed UConn the week before on that Thursday night primetime game. All right, we only got about a minute left, so we can't really go through all the college. Tennessee fell from the undefeated ranks as well. That was a big game. The big game 2 weeks ago, Clemson was held off Louisville in a thrilling game. Those were 2 probably the games of the year so far. The Tennessee double OT loss to Texas A&M, and that Louisville game almost pulled off the upset at Clemson, but they couldn't do it. How about this, Bob? NHL underway. Islanders at Rangers tonight.
Yes.
You got a prediction?
Rangers all the way.
All right. Bruins are at Columbus to get the season started. All right, we got to plug this. Annual Fire Prevention Open House Saturday, this Saturday, October 15th, at the Mill Plain Volunteer Fire Department, 54 Mill Plain Road, Danbury, Connecticut. Special events, fire truck rides, fire safety tips, help fight a fire. That's kind of exciting. And earn your junior firefighting badge. So if you got kids out there looking to earn a badge, head on down to the Mill Plain Fire Department this weekend.
We'll have Sparky will be there. There'll be a whole lot of interesting stuff for the kids to do. And there's free fire hats as well, so.
That's a good deal. What time is that? 1 to 4 o'clock, middle of the afternoon. I think the weather's supposed to be nice Saturday, right?
Yes.
All right. Are we out of time?
Are we out of time?
Is that it?
Signing away. Bye-bye.
We will see you hopefully next week.
Every day.